Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Real with Rachel, coming to you from NFM Studios, very edited. And here we are with Jeremy Poling. Thank you for coming on my show. I'm excited to pick your brain today, sir.
I like it.
And you
Welcome
haven't
back.
seen, thank you.
All right.
You haven't seen my questions, so let's just jump into it, okay? We're going to do a little bit rapid fire.
I don't know if I agree to this, but okay.
Well, all right, here we go.
All right.
So, in choosing your career, why mortgages?
Why mortgage? Well, originally I started off thinking I was going to be a stockbroker, right? 2000, right? I started working for PNC Bank and BlackRock Fund Division, and from there it kind of morphed into something I realized that I hated right away. I was lucky enough to meet a man by the name of Joseph Maggio in Cranberry, Pennsylvania, and he told me if I wanted to really help people, the private mortgage sector was the way to go. And
so you've always been in numbers then?
Oh, yeah.
Always been in finance?
Mortgages, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you still love it?
I do. I tell people all the time, right? It's very rewarding. It's high pace, right? Very stressful.
High octane.
Right? I would call it stressful to a level, but you know, the reward is seeing the face of the families that you're helping and knowing that you actually are a direct result or providing a direct result to a problem.
That's true. And you do also involve yourself a lot in the community as well, which on the way over here, I heard a lot of interactions as well. So when you're talking about helping people in the community, I think with you and your industry, it's not just, oh, here's a loan, I help you got into your dream house or your next up house. You're also behind the scenes doing a lot within the community with your industry backing to volunteer. Yeah. You're always doing events that you're donating your time, energy, and money to. So I think that's really cool. I kind of wanted to pick your brain and just say, why? Like, what was this? Did you just fall into it? Because you're good at it, right? And so typically people want to know, is there a passion behind, why they've been doing this? So it's just something that's always interested me.
That's a fair question. I get that a lot too, actually, believe it or not. We started a business networking group, a young man by the name of Adam Homewood. He's a real estate attorney. At the time, he was working for Village Settlements in Frederick, Maryland. And I had a very bad experience with BNI. Not to bash anybody that's...
It is The Real with Rachel.
Right. My personal experience with BNI just wasn't a great one. So I went out and started our own group. Okay. And from there, it quickly morphed into, we knew that we didn't want to collect money from anybody. Right, just because it was very tedious and time consuming, and I really didn't think
this is your Coffee Connections group.
Coffee and Cocktails Connection group.
Coffee and Cocktails Connections, and you've been doing that for years.
Yeah, it started 2012. I'd actually just landed here at NFM, right? And Adam and I had this idea. We didn't want to deal with any of the cost requirements of BNI and so forth. The only thing that we asked people was to help us out in the community, right? And we started with fundraising for the community. We shortly thereafter realized that all of our members would rather be boots on the ground and actually hands-on and hands-in, and it's kind of snowballed from there. Whereas, these organizations reach out to us, on a
it's cool to see that, and you've kind of led the charge in that aspect of it, especially with the Coffee and Cocktails Connections and some other things, the Frederick Rescue Mission that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. So it's really cool just to kind of see, why, and also how it's not just a job, right? It's a lifestyle, which you've done a very good job about showcasing. So I was just interested as to why. So there you have it. Yeah. All right, second one. What is a misconception about credit scores that buyers might have? So a lot of buyers might think, oh, darn it, I've got to have an 800 credit score to buy a house. What's a misconception?
So there's a lot. I mean, we could probably spend all day talking about that one. It's not necessarily the misconception. It's just probably the not being as educated.
The lack of understanding.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's always evolving, right? So, what we're seeing now in the credit market today is a little bit different than what we saw even just 12 months ago, right? So I will tell you, 2024, looking at the cusp of 2025, credit reports are much more advanced, right? As technology grows, so do these reports, right? And the data and the analytics that are used to basically calculate and
what a score
analyze
is,
what that score is continually changing. So, credit scores, right? They're always going to be something that's relevant. To answer your question, yes, we get that all the time. I thought I was going to need a 700 credit score. Really, it kind of breaks down to 5 main characteristics that you should follow, right?
Okay.
Payment history.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
age of the credit,
Okay.
right? Credit blend or credit type.
Okay.
Right.
Whether it's revolving,
Yep.
installment.
Correct.
Okay.
Auto loan, so
Auto
forth,
loan.
right?
Okay.
Then you're looking at your credit ratios, right?
Okay.
High credit limit versus the balances that you have there.
Okay. Are you maxing out your credit card or are you only spending 50, 30, 10%?
Correct.
And then what's that
The
fifth
fifth
one?
one is a new one, right? And a lot of folks are unaware of this, and this is where it comes into play. But credit behavior. So these credit reports are going back historically now and looking at, does this consumer normally carry a high balance for 2 months and then pay it off right away? Mm-hmm. Or do they carry this debt for 12, 24, 36 months, and they look at historically how you behave?
2 things that you wish buyers knew before applying for a loan.
Okay.
That you could just rent, I wish you didn't, or I wish they knew this before even doing your loan application, whether it's a year, 6 months, 2 months out. What would you say that would be? 2 things, too.
Probably the most common, right? Start saving, right? Start
Okay.
saving money. Let's not wait till the last minute, right? To become
And season money too, right? Don't you have to? You can't just be like, Mom and Dad, I need 10 grand. It's got to be season in the account.
Well, you can't call mom and dad if you do have the resources to do that. You can do that. But if you show up, 2 weeks before closing and there was $25,000 under your mattress, I mean, there's going to probably be some issues with that.
That was my parents.
Right. There's going to be some issues with that, right?
Not anymore.
All right. And the second thing would be to take a look at your income, right, and set a monthly budget, right? Because a lot of folks that I talk to, they have no idea what they're paying for cable. They have no idea what they're paying for to put gas in their cars or what they're paying for groceries. And if you sit down and really take a look at it, you can calculate a very easy number that you should be able to be very successful in paying on time every month and not becoming, house poor,
And
or
on the
mortgage poor.
right, and on the flip side of that, the double-edged sword side of that, maybe the sharper side, you'll be able to see these are all the things I'm spending that maybe necessarily I don't need, and you really don't realize, I think, until you map it out.
Until you map it out, yes.
Yeah, which is
and it's easy to deduct them once you've actually isolated them and you can identify them. Then you can actually deduct or take them out of your spending habits. If it's something that you're not using regularly. I mean, these new subscriptions that people belong to, right? It's very easy. Just jump on your phone or subscribe to them.
Yes. I want to try one of those apps where you sign up and it tells you all your subscriptions.
Smart.
And then it will say, do you want a yay or nay keep these? I should try that.
Because it'll actually show you how
know.
many times within the last, 30 days, within the last 60 days, within the last 90 days, how often you've used that, specific subscription.
And if you're not, why are you paying?
Cut it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one is going to be, because that was 2, right? So what is the worst thing that you've seen before closing?
True.
And it doesn't have to be your client, but like something that happened though, right? So what is the absolute worst thing that you've seen prior to a closing that most likely killed the deal? Or could have been a God moment where it came in and was saved?
I've seen a lot of things. I will tell you, the worst that you will ever see is seller's remorse when you have a buyer that's so excited and have done everything the right way and have done everything that they need to do, and this is their dream, right, to become a homeowner.
I've witnessed that.
Seller, for whatever reason, there may be some sentimental attachment, whatever it may look like, or it could be financially if there's not enough money in the transaction. But telling that buyer that the seller has changed their mind
I've dealt with that.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Mid-escrow.
Well,
after inspections, I mean, we're like right before, and I repped the seller, and I had to tell, but it went through.
It's heartbreaking. I mean, and these buyers may even have moving trucks.
Once you sign as a seller in Maryland, that is it, unless the buyer wants to get out or there's a meeting of the minds.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it with moving trucks right outside of the title company, and seller just doesn't come.
Yeah.
Seller's agent's trying to get them on the phone, and they're just refusing to sign, and you have to literally sit there with the buyers and have that conversation. And
that has reworked the way that I've done my business on the sell side, where I've made it very clear, especially from the listing appointment to going under contract and moving forward each time. This is it. Once you sign, seller, because the buyer, really can try and get out if the contingencies are in play at any point as far as contingencies, but
Right.
you know, use your financing contingency up to the last minute. But the sellers, like, once you sign, baby, you're gone. Like, you got to go. So that's something I think a lot of people don't realize, that there's so many contingencies for buyers, at least in the state of Maryland. But for the sellers,
there's not. Right. So I mean, that's so I would say that that's probably
Okay.
the top of the list. I mean, you have your usual suspects, right? Quitting a job, right?
okay.
Buying a new car.
Okay, so I was looking for
Yeah.
something like that.
You
like,
have your
all right,
usual
did somebody
suspects, but then
buy
you-
something crazy? Any
Yes.
big trips, like lavish anywhere that anybody went to at the last minute?
Christmas time is always the tricky month, right? November and December, you know, folks may not think that, you know, that $2,000 or $3,000 Christmas spend is going to hurt them, but sometimes when you don't do that budget properly, we talked about, that's when it comes back to bite you. Yeah, absolutely.
That stinks. That stinks. All right, so talking about stuff that we're purchasing,
Yeah.
what is the worst thing to buy before you purchase or do a refi? What is something that maybe buyers might not know? Like, don't buy that. Just wait. Because I even tell my clients, don't even buy a stick of gum unless the LO tells you to, right? So what is something that maybe buyers should be, or clients should be aware of?
Big ticket items, right? And I'm gonna piggyback that with, right? So cars, right?
Okay. Wait till
Recreational vehicles, right?
RVs, okay.
RVs, right?
4x4s?
The other thing that we see, though, that has really come into play recently, you have to be careful with the student loans that parents are signing for their children, right? So, Parent Plus, I mean, it's a great program that, you know, parents are able to help their children with bettering their higher education, but you have to be very careful with it, right? Because if those are signed into your name, you may not think about those, right?
That's going to count when you're qualifying for a mortgage.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I co-signed for my kid's student loan or car.
Right. Big ticket items like that, right? I mean, student loans aren't cheap.
Or house, co-signed for a house.
Automobiles aren't cheap, right? Automobiles aren't cheap. I mean, furniture really, you know, we get that question all the time. Can they pull my credit for cable? Can they pull my credit for new furniture? Well, you know, $100,000 in furniture is a little bit different than a $3,000 couch.
Yeah.
So, you know, just use prudence in that situation.
And always communicate with your loan officer,
Please.
your realtor, the people that are like hands-on. Yeah,
Yes.
anything money, I always push.
Please.
You know, like just double check before you do anything else. But
Another good question, right?
all right, good. Well, thank you so much for joining us on
you.
this episode of The Real with Rachel.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.